Hey, so the final speaker in our first panel is Maria Luddy, who's Emeritus Professor of Modern Irish History at the University of Warwick and Director of the Women's History Project 1997 to 2001. So Maria is going to speak on Sources for Irish Women's History Database 1999 to 2023, and I know some of our speakers have already mentioned the database today. I know I've used it, and I'm sure plenty of us here have used it as well, so it's wonderful to hear more about it today, so I'll hand over. Thank you.
Okay, well, good morning still, everybody. And I'm delighted to be here to talk about the sources for Irish women's history. And just very kind of, I think, moved and also really stimulated by all the things that have been said this morning already. And it's got me really kind of thinking about other stuff that we can actually do. But I'll just talk a little bit about the sources for Irish women's history first. And the first thing I really need to do is to thank a few people. And these are the people who were involved in the kind of the second iteration of this sources database, and which we started to work on in mid-2022, and it was finished by March of this year and went online then. But I think we do need to thank people, and particularly Mná 100 and the Irish Manuscripts Commission chairman and the board, who actually helped to fund, or who actually did fund, didn't help, they actually gave us the money to update the database, which was absolutely wonderful. And we had been trying for quite a long time to get money from somewhere to update it. Many of you know that the original database was actually made available on a CD-ROM, which was the height of sophistication in 2000 and 2001. But of course, it's now outdated because lots of modern computers will not actually allow you to access the CD-ROM. But anyway, thanking people. So definitely Mná 100 and the Irish Manuscripts Commission. I am extraordinarily grateful to Niall O'Leary, who actually designed the website and did absolutely wonderful things that you can look at, and how you can search and all kinds of things there, which were just, for me, were magical. So a wonderful work that he did. Dr. Frances Nolan worked on updating information in the database, and again, she put a huge amount of work into it as well. And there's also Cathy Hayes, who's the administrator of the Irish Manuscripts Commission, who gave us a huge amount of assistance, not just in terms of administration and linking in with the IMC and Mná 100, but actually did quite a bit of work herself on assisting us as well. And the other person who worked on it, besides myself, was Professor Mary O'Dowd. And for us, it was kind of like, well, you know, we were reliving the 1990s, because we had worked on this database originally in the 1990s, as well as the upgrading and whatever. So just a little bit first. The original database was created between June of 1997 and September of 1997 and July of 1999, and then it kind of went on for a couple of years, but there wasn't anybody really working on the project except myself at the time. And one of the things we had been asked to do, or one of the things we said we would do, is just to survey and record sources relevant to the history of women in Ireland. Then we were to make a list of those sources and make that list available to the public. And the third aspect of the Women's History Project was to publish historical documents about the history of women in Ireland, which we did. So when we went and looked at these repositories, we actually visited something in the region of 420 repositories in those couple of years. Now, some of them, of course, turned out not to be repositories at all. Okay? You know, I think underneath a water tank in a cupboard in somebody's office isn't really a repository. But, and one of the things we did, we sent out questionnaires to archivists, museum curators, all kinds of people, with a list of, you know, can you tell us all the stuff you have on women in your archive? And most of them sent back a letter, right? Because, you know, email wasn't as common. We were using email, but, you know, it was like, well, we actually don't have anything on women, but if you're more than welcome to come along and have a look and see if we do have anything, which we did. And of course we found loads of stuff, right? So we did all of that, and we ended up, I think, listing something in the region of about, I think maybe 262 repositories. Now there are about 221 in this database, and I can tell you why it's gone down. But when we did look at material, we did see it in the best and worst of conditions. We listed material that was kept in attics and basements. We climbed into roof spaces. We tread rotting boards. We gingerly stepped over dead vermin. And we actually ran from creatures that were still very much alive. So you can see, the stuff was everywhere. And one of the things that we were very proud of when we'd finished the whole project was we actually managed to persuade a lot of people to hand their archives over to a proper repository. And I'm thinking again here of our sources such as, say, the Girls Friendly Society or the Girl Guides and all of those organisations that did actually then put their records into proper archives, because they didn't know that the stuff was important. And they say, well, who'd be interested? I said, I'm interested. Loads of people are interested. And so that was actually really, really good. But the other thing, of course, is that when we did uncover, what we did uncover in the survey exceeded all of our expectations as well. The variety, richness, quality, and quantity of information revealed was absolutely astonishing. And remember, this is the late 1990s, where women's history was definitely becoming better known. But there weren't that many books published in it. It certainly wasn't really being taught in universities that much. And so this was all kind of new as well. And in this database that we created, we listed the archives of convents, of county councils, of psychiatric hospitals, of libraries, of museums, and public and private institutions and organisations. We listed all known poor law records, except for counties Offaly and Cork, because they had their own lists at the time. They were quite happy for us just to say that they had their lists, which was grand. What became so obvious from our survey, and I think something again reiterated this morning, was that women were to be found in almost all official public and private documents. They are spoken of in institutional records such as the minutes of poor law boards, or the committal forms of a 19th century lunatic asylum. They recorded the functioning of their convents, their institutions and landed estates in finance ledgers, in reports and correspondence. They were affected by the financial constraints imposed by local authorities such as county councils, and you see this particularly when you look at home assistance records, say from the 1920s onwards, a source that almost nobody, I think, has actually used. And I remember going into an attic in Waterford, what was the old workhouse, and seeing literally piles and piles of home assistance records. They were literally just piled up in the roof space. That was actually pretty dodgy because we thought we were going to fall through, but we didn't. And those records are now safe. So as I said then, they were affected by all these financial constraints. They were also tenants whose payments were noted in thousands of rentals. Women also recorded their personal lives in letters, in diaries, in journals, commonplace books. They painted, they stitched, they embroidered, they took photographs, they wrote music, plays, poems, and novels. And all of these sources are represented in some ways within this database. Now, I think from listening to all of this morning's papers, I want to do another project, the very same as this, but get into even more detail, because I think archivists and curators are now much, much more aware of the sources relating to women's history that they have in their various collections. And I think lots of very interesting things said this morning about archives, how they're collected, how they're recorded. And I think, I think there's great room here for discussion about where we might go with something along these lines of maybe, wouldn't it be wonderful to have a list, even a list of all the diaries written by women in every single archive and museum in the country. And I'll tell you, small local museums, we came across them in places like Leitrim, they actually do have those kinds of sources. And you don't know about them unless you know about them. And if you don't know about them, nobody's ever going to use them. And it would be wonderful to have a list of that kind. And of course, big, huge changes, as we all know, have taken place in terms of history and the recording of history in Ireland over the last 20 years or so. And some of that, of course, has to do with the advances in technology. We have huge amounts of material digitised. Again, it would be lovely to have a proper list of every source that's been digitised. We don't. There's another project. And if you just even think of the value of something like the census material that the National Archives have made available online, or even the Bureau of Military History papers that are available. Again, just changing the way people can access history, but also that's the kind of resource that you can look at from anywhere in the world, and you can look at it from your own home. Now, I do have problems and issues with digitisation, but this is not the place to discuss them. And I think the very primary idea around digitisation is that it is so expensive, extraordinarily expensive, and we don't know how the technology is going to develop over the next 20 or 30 years. And you know, there may be no archivists, could be all run by AI in 20 or 30 years' time. So yeah, horror of horrors. But we don't know how technology is going to develop. And I think those are things that we need to think about when we're talking about digitisation. But this is the source that I'm here to talk about. I love this. I think this is wonderful. So this is the front page. And it's very easy to get onto this site, irishmanuscripts.ie. What is it? Yeah, that's my days as a primary school teacher. And that's it. It's actually hosted and sustained by the Irish Manuscripts Commission. And we have this wonderful then opening page, and you can see all the things you can get into. So if you go look along the top line, home about the database, about the database just tells you really about summary, admin matters, introduction from the latest issue, and then the introduction from 1999, the original, and then acknowledgements. And acknowledgements in 1999 because a lot of people worked on it during that 2 to 3 year period, and it's their work that actually forms the base for this. It actually is all of this material. So that's good. If you go how to search, really, really easy. All kinds of ways to search. You can do simple free text searches, going too fast, keyword searches, advanced search, searching a single repository, visualizations, which I'll show you in a minute, and very general information. So those are the things. And one of the things when we were redoing and updating it, what we were very concerned with was making sure we had the proper addresses for archives, right? Because many of them, of course, have changed over the years. We were also very aware that a lot of archives have now digitized material in their own collections, and of course an awful lot of them have websites, which they didn't have in the 1990s. And of course we wanted to make sure that they could link into, anybody using this could link into the original archive. So all these ways of searching, which are great. You can do an advanced search. Now I thought I'd do a little experiment here. And this is, of course, where everything will go enormously wrong, which does mean, of course, you would remember that I had done this. And I'm just putting in dates, 1916, right? And you can, imagine lots of things are going to come up. And oh, does it? Yes, it does. So there are 502 results relating to 1916. That doesn't mean it's about the Rising, okay? It's anything relating to women. Somebody, again, could have been writing a letter in 1916 about how they're running their farm, and it's going to come up there, okay? Now, so you can scroll down, you can see there's an ID number, the repository, you can see, there's one here I want to show you, because again, we did have to, as I said, update some of the material and the resources and the repositories. So this is the Brother Alan archival collection. So you click on that and you go in here, and you will find that the Brother Allen archive is no longer where it was in the late 1990s. So what we've done is explained where it was and what has happened to it since. And as you will see, it tells you really, we have the same list, so the material is still there, right? But it's not necessarily all in the one place. Some of it is with the military archives, and some of it is with the Christian Brothers. And you have to get in touch with the archivists in order to look at the material, because neither have actually catalogued the material they have gotten. But I always feel there is a list, there is an original list, and we just have to make sure that nothing disappears from that list. So it's somewhere there. So that was the kind of thing we wanted to do in terms of updating. One of the interesting things as well is we thought we'd ask some places if they actually still wanted to be in it, which is very silly, actually very, very silly. So, we wrote to the Good Shepherd community and asked, well, I think we kind of asked, was there an update, right? Because we know now they have amalgamated in the last few years with Our Lady of Charity in Hyde Park. They were originally the same congregation, but they split, I think, in the early 19th century. So they have regrouped and got together. And they asked us not to include the list that we had. And there were a number of convents that didn't actually want us to put in their archives, so we stopped asking. Right. So basically what we did then was we kept in most of the lists relating to convents, but a lot of those convents are now closed and have been centralised, and we have made it clear in the database that there is a way to get access to some of those archives. Now, you will not get access, as you all know, to archives dealing with institutions such as industrial schools, mother and baby homes, and what was the other one? Yeah, Magdalene Asylums, yes. But then that's, I think, a discussion for another day, getting access to those kinds of archives. But also the other thing is some archives have closed, right? And some have been consolidated into a larger archive, like the Irish Writers Museum has closed, okay? And again, on there, you will see an indication of what's happened to their database, their collections. So we were trying as far as we could to make sure that we could, and that users would know what was available, where it was available, how to contact that archive, and even to get onto a website. Now I'm going to show you, and again, I think this is kind of indicative of the sources. What am I saying? This is really about the range of archives that are repositories that are there. And I'm just going to show you just one. It's the one for, repository. It's the one for Tipperary, because since I'm from Tip, I figured I should just plug this one a little bit, as it's a very, very, very good archive. And this is the one from, there's an extra archival repository in County Tipperary since we undertook the original, which is wonderful, original database. It's I didn't even know it was there until about 3 or 4 years ago, and it's actually the County Council archives for the county, which is in Clonmel, a purpose-built archive. And of course, one of the things that did change substantially once our original database was created was that many local authorities began to take care of their material, and a lot of them are in purpose-built archival repositories, which is wonderful. And some of them have absolutely wonderful websites, and the one I'm thinking of in particular here is the one in the archive in Tullamore in County Offaly, which is very, very good. Now, what am I looking for? Tipperary. And I'm going too fast, am I not? This was fine last night. I was able to do this with my eyes closed. Okay, so if I close my eyes, maybe. But you can see this is a whole range. There's a whole range of stuff here. Now we're getting there. And I think it's really just to show you just how advanced many archival repositories have become over the last 20 years or so. Not the County Archive, not the museum, but Tipperary Studies, which is in Thurles in County Tipperary. And this, 2 resources more than that. Why am I not coming up with? So I didn't do search, so I didn't.
If you take out 1916.
Oh, there we go. Yeah. See, I'm really good at using this. Actually, it is the kind of resource that you can just, click on something and you will find lots of interesting things. And it is actually one of those things where, you might be looking for something in particular, or you might just want to have a kind of a browse and see what's there. And it is a very easy one to browse. Now, so we go into the Tipperary Studies, so lots of, grand jury records, poor law records or whatever, but we also tell you where the archive is, and there's always a little helpful map to show you where to go in Thurles, just on the square if you want to get into this one. And this is what I really wanted to show, and the value, I think, of modern technology and how it has developed. You go into Tipperary Studies, right? And here you have Tipperary Studies. This is one of the best, I think, sites that you can actually enter. Limerick Museum and Limerick Archive also have just wonderful, a huge amount of digitised material on their website, and as I said, County Louth, and lots of other counties as well. Now, and here you go, you get all your Tipperary Studies news, they have collections of digital print archive, so they've digitised quite a lot of this stuff. And there you have, Kilcash. This is a primary school in Kilcash. Yeah, gosh, I mean, it could have been just like, I'm not sure when that was actually taken, but you could certainly have seen a school place like that, Kilcash, in the 1960s and 70s in Ireland. And I think these are turkeys. Yeah, so I thought that was seasonal enough as an entree there. But the other thing, and again, it is, if you do go into the website of the repository, you will get a huge amount of knowledge and information. The Tipperary one, for example, over the last 3 years, they have now, I think, 3 or 4 films, beautifully made films, about the history of the county, about the historical sites, about the glove-making factory in Tipperary town. Right? You might say, oh gosh. Yeah, no, it's really interesting. And just histories of the county. And they have been able to get money via the Centenary Fund to actually do that. And they're really, really professional. And they're also narrated by a local, very eminent local historian called Des Marnan. And it's wonderful stuff. But as I said, even with this one, the images they have, the postcards that they've put up, the photographs that they have put up. I mean, it's just wonderful to be able to actually just, again, look at them online like that. They have a talk, they're very, very active in terms of lectures and talks, and all their talks, most of the talks that they have done over the year are actually available online as well. So it's just a wonderful resource. So in other words, what I'm saying is, when you do use this resource, oh, excellent, I didn't, yeah, good. Because I couldn't possibly make people be late for lunch. So if you use a resource like this, do go into the website, because you will find a whole other world of material that is available. And all I can say really is, go in, irishmanuscripts.ie, play around with it, all kinds of things, as I said, available on the website itself, but also you can search all kinds of things, not just at the local level, but also just nationally. And then if we, go do things, the one I do just want to mention before we finish, this is wonderful as well, we could add these. These are resources, usually of digitization of materials, that very few people know about, or some people know about. But again, it's like this, if you don't know where to find it, well, you know, you're never going to find it. And this is all just this wonderful link, all these links like to Bad Bridget, great project, Century Ireland, Chief Secretary's Office Register Papers, where you think, well, okay, that's National Archives of Ireland, pre-famine, not many women there. Thing is full of women. You just put in the word woman or women, and they are all over the Chief Secretary's papers, okay? All of these wonderful things that you can, again, link into. And the one I really like is the Dublin Metropolitan Police arrest books, which, again, you know, most people don't know about these. They're actually available online. And you can just work at your leisure if that's what you're interested in. You know, petty criminals in Dublin during this period. And then we have the reports of the various inquiries, commissions of inquiry. And actually another really good resource, I'm never sure how much they want this publicised, but it's the Houses of the Oireachtas Library and Research Service. You can find all kinds of reports on that, going back to the late 18th century. Yeah, and all the modern, yeah, it's just put in a word and you'll be amazed at what will come up. Yeah, put in women, you'll find loads of stuff as well. And again, just all of these things. So this was another aspect of the project that we were very, very keen to actually have as part of our database. And it was really, as I said, thanks to Niall O'Leary that we were able to manage all this. And as I said, having heard the papers this morning, I think it'd be wonderful if we get a load of money, do all this again, but in a different kind of way. Okay, thank you.